You ever see one of those business headlines that just makes you scratch your head? You know, a company you've barely even heard of suddenly buys some legendary global brand. It feels kind of backwards, right? Well, today, we are going to dive into a really powerful idea that explains this exact move. And honestly, it might just change how you read the news forever.
All right, so let's just start with the absolute basics. Why do companies even bother going global in the first place? I bet you already have an answer popping into your head, and for good reason. There's a classic, very straightforward explanation for this that's been the standard for decades.
So the traditional model is really simple. A company, usually from the West, makes something awesome. Think Apple with the iPhone. They have this massive competitive advantage. So going global is all about one thing, exploiting that advantage. You take what works at home and you sell it everywhere else. It makes perfect sense. It's a powerful strategy. And for a very long time, that was pretty much the main story of globalization. But then, you see these deals that just turn that logic completely on its head. A move that seems to come out of left field and just shatters all the old rules. And that right there is where things get super interesting.
Okay, so just picture this. A company you've never heard of, from an emerging market, all of a sudden buys a household name in the US or Europe. Let's take Lenovo. Back in 2005, they were a Chinese company, but they definitely weren't a global player. And then, they bought the entire PC division from IBM. The company that created the iconic ThinkPad. They weren't trying to sell their famous product, they were buying somebody else's. This just doesn't fit the old model at all. So what's the real play here? What's going on?
Well, this puzzle is exactly where a fascinating idea called the Springboard theory comes into play. It's a completely different way of thinking about global ambition, and it explains these weird moves perfectly.
Okay, so here's the absolute crucial point. Instead of going global to exploit an advantage they already have, these companies are going global to acquire assets that they desperately need. They're not expanding to sell, they're expanding to buy. The entire international move is basically a giant shopping trip for the missing pieces they need to become a global powerhouse. And this quote from the source material really just hits the nail on the head. It's a total shift in motivation. It's not about leveraging what you have anymore. It's about aggressively going out and getting what you need so you can leapfrog the competition. The acquisition itself, well, that becomes the springboard. So what are these strategic assets they're hunting for? Well, just think about that Lenovo deal again. By buying IBM's PC business, they instantly got their hands on cutting-edge tech. They got an established premium brand name, ThinkPad, that was trusted all over the world. And they got a global sales team and world-class engineers. In a single transaction, they basically bought decades of progress.
All right, so let's put these two big ideas head to head. Because when you actually see them side by side, the difference in strategy is, well, it's night and day.
So on the one hand, you've got the traditional model. The motivation here is to exploit what you already have. The thinking is, let's sell our great product everywhere. But on the other hand, you have the springboard model. And the motivation there is to acquire what you're missing. The thinking is more like, let's buy their great brand to make us a real contender. And while sure, any company can use either strategy, we tend to see established Western firms using the first one and these ambitious emerging market firms using the second.
Now, this is way more than just some interesting business theory. It's a really powerful tool, a new lens that you can use to decode the business headlines you see every single day.
And here's how you can actually use it. It's a simple two-step filter. The next time you read about a big international buyout, first, just notice the deal. Second, ask yourself that one critical question. Is this company exploiting an advantage they already have, or are they using this deal as a springboard to acquire something they desperately need? Your answer to that question reveals the entire hidden strategy.
And that really just leaves us with this final thought. The global economic game is changing fast, and the old playbook, it just doesn't always apply anymore. So the next time you see one of those surprised acquisitions, you'll know to look a little deeper. You'll know to ask yourself, are they just making a sale, or are they on the springboard, about to launch themselves into the big leagues?